new season.
You're listening to Arkansas Preps Weekly on Natural State Sports, your top source for the biggest news in high school sports across Arkansas.
And here we go.
I didn't mean to have Cabo on here already, but what is up, everybody? Welcome into episode 77 of Arkansas Preps Weekly here on the Natural State Sports Network. I'm Kyle Sutherland and joined by the baseball guru, Kevin Bohannon, who normally comes in later. But, Kevin, if that's the worst mistake I make today, even on top of forgetting to mute myself, then yeah, I'll take it because that'll save a few minutes here. So, well, it is state championship week, weekend of champions week, whatever you want to call it. We will conclude the school year as well as the soccer, baseball, and softball seasons at the University of Central Arkansas in Conway this weekend. And, of course, on this episode, we'll be breaking down all of the matchups for the baseball state championships, which Kevin will be on the call for 3 of them, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so you'll be on the call for 3, and then I'll get I already did make another mistake. Forgot to turn the music off. I'll be on the call for 4A, 5A, and 6A softball. So really appreciate PBS for bringing us back. I guess that's a good thing when they bring you back when you've done it previously. So both of us are real excited to do that. And before we do get into it, I want to make sure and give some love to the people who make this show possible, starting with Athletic Field Service of Arkansas. Whether lip removal and edging or any other needs for your natural surface, give Jeremy Rice and his crew a call, 501-416-1218. That's 501-416-1218. Also, Boom Boom Floor Shine, servicing all of Southwest Arkansas. Need some TLC for your VCT? Call 870-833-0521. And last but not least, Chinook Cedary. Head over to ChinookCedary.com. Check out all the 8 flavors that they offer. Type in code NSS Media at checkout for 10% off of your order. All right, let's get into it. Kevin had a couple of lops. It goes without saying, I guess, or maybe it's an understatement of the year that we had some very lopsided semifinal matchups. I will say probably the Fayetteville Conway game. And look, we knew, you had Fayetteville preseason ranked number 1 coming in. That's kind of been the 1-2 all year. Was Conway eventually took that over as they had their undefeated run there for a bit before falling to Cabot. But, man, 11-0 in 5 innings. Mark Brissy, he did walk 7, but overall did pretty good. Struck out 9. Conway, on the other hand, used 6 different pitchers. Both of these games, let's call it what they are. They were drubbings. I certainly did not see that with Fayetteville and Conway, though.
Yeah, Catholic had more to do with that than I think anything. Catholic scored 7 against Conway in that Friday matchup. So Conway had to expend a lot of energy. They had to go to their get deep into their pitching staff, but they bounced back and just that they rolled through the rest of that game. And Fayetteville came out on fire. Look, when you have the firepower that they have, they showed it. Brissy hit a 3-run home run in that 9-run 3rd inning, and that just broke Conway's back. Conway had a great season, 25-2. But as Coach Scott Gallagher said, look, they've only played with their lineup like a handful of times this season due to injuries. Landon Schaefer was out for a little bit. Landon Holzhauer, their catcher, was out for a little bit. Carter Morse was out for a little bit. So now they're healthy and they're back to being the best team in the state. So this is what we wanted to see. Fayetteville and Rogers, they split the regular season, and Rogers won their 6th straight West title. So they get to decide it on the field at UCA this weekend. And you didn't mute your.
Bentonville was. Golly, I got to turn the SEC championship off or tournament off. But Bentonville was one of those teams that you had talked about out of the West. Again, everybody that's listened throughout the season, yes, the West. Every single year it seems like that's what we're talking about with them being the stronger conference and everything. But Bentonville was one of those that you had kind of talked about. You had talked about on episodes. We had talked about it kind of off air about how they were one of those teams that could surprise some people, and they made it on. To the beating Cabot. Cabot's shown a really good, but up until Fayetteville, Cabot was the only team that had taken down Conway. So, the Tigers, their road stopped in the quarterfinals, but that was probably one that did surprise a few people.
Yeah, that was a game. It was a 4-5 matchup, but there was a lot of distance between those 4 and 5. But the West just showed how strong it was at the end of the day. Bryant, they won a game, but the West just came out on fire, just like they have the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, this is the third? I know the third straight year because I've called all 3 finals so far with being Fayetteville and Rogers this year. Harbor won the last 2. They faced Rogers last year. Rogers is back in the state championship game, so it's not too surprising. But yeah, it's like I said, when Bentonville won that first round matchup against Cabot, never count out the Tigers during the state tournament because they know how to get to a state championship. They just had a really tough draw this year.
And you gave a lot of rightfully so credit to what happened in the Fayetteville Conway game, to what Catholic was able to do. And, they beat Rogers Heritage in the first round, then beat our Catholic didn't beat them. They gave Conway all they wanted. So talk about the Rockets run here, just kind of how they got hot at the right time.
Yeah, Caleb Short, who's going to Louisiana Tech next year, he did what he's done all season. He shut a team down. So that was going to be the Achilles heel for Heritage in the first round, and they got a fresh Caleb Short went out there and dominated. It was 5-3. After that, it kind of fell off, but Cannon Burke had a big hit in that big inning against Conway, and they just pieced things together. Miles Raymer, really good shortstop. I think he's got a bright future. And Catholic's going to be a team that is kind of middle of the pack, but every other year, every 2 years, that they'll tend to kind of creep up there towards the top. Brian Jones, Dylan Owens, the staff, they do a really good job with those guys. Wouldn't be surprised to me if they're always a Final 8 or possibly a Final 4 team. And
looking at the matchup, as you said, 2 teams that know each other as well as any teams playing in this conference or in these state tournaments. Of course, in 5A here in a second, we'll talk about 2 teams that are also very familiar with one another. But what do you see in this Fayetteville-Rogers matchup this time around?
This should not be much of a game when you look at the high caliber Division I signees that Fayetteville has, and then they've got others too. I think they've got 7 or 8 that are going to college against Rogers, who has just been fundamentally sound. They've won 6 straight. Matt Melson always does a great job with his guys. Jake Taylor's back for another year in the state championship game as a pitcher. He's only a junior. They started last year as a sophomore against Harbor, and they lost that tough 2-0 game. So on paper, Fayetteville should win this game, but as you know, you don't play games on paper. Delamar's hitting .447. Fayetteville's hit 24 home runs, 23 or 24 home runs as a team. Rogers is hitting .286 as a team. They've won with pitching and defense. Rogers lost their first conference game 16-1 to Bentonville. Just think about it. This is the way baseball is. Whether you're a Razorback fan or high school baseball fan, you really never know what could happen. Just like last year with Washita coming out and beating Woodlawn. Woodlawn had beaten them two times during the regular season, maybe 3 times. And Washita upset them just because they had their day. So Rogers is hoping to have their day. Fayetteville was just really strong up and down the line. Like I said, they're back full strength. Coach Gallagher said, look, we finally got everybody healthy. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be on the call for that game Saturday night at 7 o'clock.
Then down in Class 5A, Valley View back in after a 4-0 win over East opponent, Greene County Tech. And then they will be playing East opponent, Marian, after a 3-2 win over BB. So, we've talked about the depth of 5A this year. I mean, both in softball and baseball, we had great tournaments on each side, but we've talked about Valley View, pretty much at length and as anyone would expect all year, but hadn't talked about the Patriots a whole lot, who I guess they won it in 2022. They beat Buren in 2022. So talk a little bit about the Marian Patriots, because we have not touched on them a whole lot this season.
And they started out 5-7. They were 2-4. They were 2-4 in conference play. They were terrible. And I imagine Coach Pete Prater would say the same thing. They've only got 1 college commit. They lost 7 seniors off last year's team. They lost in the first round to Maumelle last year, who was the 3 seed that came out of the Central and ended up, of course, getting to the finals and lost to Valley View. But Marian finished second in the conference last year. They finished 3rd this year. Marian is a case of a team getting hot at the right time. Also, they've had a couple of injuries, but they're right where they need to be this year. They lost their starting center fielder to a torn UCL at the beginning of the season. And then they lost their projected number 2 guy. I had them ranked in the preseason, I think number 6 or 7 in our Super 7 poll. So they started out slow, but they've gotten hot the right time. I think they've won 12-4 overall in their last 16, and they finished 6-2 in conference play. So they go as far as Cohen Bumball. It's Jimmy Cohen Bumball. For those that have seen two different names, it's not two different people. But he's going to Itawamba. He was committed, I think, to UCA before he decommitted. So he's going to go the junior college route. He was up to 91 last week in his performance in the first round of their win. So I think Marian, they've got the name. They got some guys. They play hard. They know Valley View. Valley View took care of them in the doubleheader in the 5A East Conference play. So I think it's, they're kind of playing with house money at this point. So I think, Marian will go as far as Bumball takes him. If he comes out and walks a lot of people, it could be a short game. But if he goes out, carves them up, does like he did against Lake Hamilton, I think Marian has a shot. Now, let's go to Valley View. 7 straight semifinals, 7 conference championships, and 5 straight state championships. So that should tell you everything you want to know about Valley View. They've done a little bit different this year. They've only hit 14 home runs as a team. I think Hudson Rogers hit 14 by himself last year. I joke, but it was like 10 or 12. So they started out slow. They won 9-5 against Arkansas High. And then Greenwood just ran out of pitching. They won that one 15-6 and then 4-0 over 5A East foe Greene County Tech. Congratulations to the 5A East. 3 teams in the semifinals of Class 5A. Just an outstanding run by that conference. So Drew Garton's hitting 485. He's got 48 hits on the year. Keaton Mathis right up there with him, 404, 44 hits. They're just going to hit and they're going to run. They're not going to hit it over the fence like they did. Jay Taylor had a home run against Greenwood. He had a 2-run bomb. They never really looked back from that. So they're not going to hit the ball over the fence. They're just going to dink and dunk. Noah Ragsdale leading the team. I think he's got 6 home runs on the year. A little 5'8", nothing second baseman that hit it off the wall at UCA last year off of Tag Andrews. So it should be a really good ball game. Like I said, this game goes as far as Cohen Bumball will take the Patriots.
So the East made a lot of noise there, as you said, 3 teams in the semifinal round. Then you look on the other side of the state, and out of the West, Van Buren made a lot of noise. And I'd asked the question to you last week because this Van Buren team, talking about being hot, they had started off slow, they got hot, kind of had some skids down the stretch there, but then they made some noise when it, of course, fell to Marian in the quarterfinal round, but beat a one-seeded Maumelle team out of an extremely tough Central Conference that had just won its first conference title in school history. And that was the question. Can Van Buren be the team that they had been during the good parts of the season? And they certainly were in that first round.
Absolutely. And Weston Wilcox had a good term. He had a great year. He's a 2026. He'll be back. I don't think Marian's losing a whole lot, or Van Buren's losing a whole lot. So I think they have a shot to get back next year. I think they'll even have a shot to make a state championship run. So, the 4 seeds went 3-1 in the first round, and one of those made it to 2 of them, Greene County Tech and BB, made it to the semifinals. So BB slayed the Dragon Russellville in the first round. Ballard had a great game on the mound. I talked to Coach Chance Cleveland. His guys were just pumped up. So they beat Sheridan in the second round. That just shows you the balance and parity that we've been talking about all year in Class 5A. Last year it was Valley View, Maumelle, and everybody else, really. And then Maumelle fell off and it was Valley View and everybody else. This year, a little bit different. Even though Valley View had been number 1, I think we had 4 or 5 different number 2 teams at one point this year, Kyle. So that just shows you BB, great season. Van Buren, number 4 seed. They had a hot streak to end the season to get that number 4 seed. They had to win a tiebreaker. So that's why we play the game.
Then on down to Class 4A, man, this semifinal matchup between Harding Academy and Shiloh. I bet the private school haters needed a rubber room for this one. But Shiloh Christian falls to Harding Academy 8-4. So Harding Academy, different classification, essentially same results. I know they didn't get there. I guess Gosnell Gosnell upset them last year, and then ended up going and beating CAC for the 3A state championship. Now Harding Academy is playing in the 4A state championship against Brooklyn, which, man, Brooklyn Robinson, I know you were giving us updates on that one. That was quite a nightcap, state tournament cap, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and man, it was 2-2 going into the 8th inning. Brooklyn scores 4. Robinson comes back and scores 4 and has the bases loaded with 1 out. Nate Johnson hits into an inning double play. That's you couldn't draw it up any better for Brooklyn right there. Then you got, when you're in the 3rd game and you get to the 9th or 10th inning, it's tough. You're scratching the bottom of the pitching staff at that point. And Robinson did a great job. They were a year ahead of getting to where they wanted to be last year with getting to a state championship, and they were hit away this year. But Brooklyn, we've had them in the top 4 all year long. They finally getting back to a state championship game. First time they've been there since 1990. They were a 2A school at that point.
That's when I was born.
Yeah. That's a long time, old man. Not 1981, but yeah. Brooklyn's hitting 329 on the year. Cooper Bodie's had a great year. Jake Reese, Asher Griffin, they're 26-10, and they've gotten to where they are by playing tough teams. Coach Baker, they've done a really good job. Bobby Joe Watson, who was a fill-in head coach 2 years ago. And then they got Jake Algie. They've got some guys that have come back. Jake Algie was a 2020 grad that was on their 2019 team that lost to Pottsville in the 2nd round. So I think they're going to start Griffin. They got Reese. They can go to at some point. But it should be a really good final. Chet, what can you say about Shane Fullerton? Look, Harding Academy's won 8 state championships, and Fullerton's won 7 of them. And they've all been since 2008. That's when they revitalized the baseball program there. Bentley Hawks, Nate Corbett. What can you say about Hawks? He came in and got the win against Shiloh Christian right there at the end in the semifinals. So I'm not surprised Harding Academy has been number 1 all year, but 4A was really kind of a toss-up with just teams kind of being in flux. We just didn't know how the matchups were going to break out. We obviously knew the 4A 5 North was strong, and it was with Shiloh beat Morrilton. Robinson got to the semifinals. CAC took their first-round opponent Brooklyn all the way to the brink, and Brooklyn had to win that game in 8 innings. So Brooklyn slayed the Dragon in the 4A 5 North, and now they get to try to do it again and go 3-0 to defeat one conference 3 times in a state tournament. That would be something for Brooklyn.
I want to go back to that quarterfinal matchup, the 9-5 win Shiloh over Morrilton. You had 2 of the state's premier coaches, especially when you look at just like all time between Alan Gum and Mike Lee, of course. And, and Shiloh has been rolling really even since last year when they went on that run with interim coach Jamie Beers. But talk about the job that Mike Lee did, in his first year leading the Devil Dogs.
Yeah, this was actually his 2nd year.
Or second, I'm sorry, yeah.
Last year they got upset in the first round by Warren. We expected Morrilton to make a run with Luke Carner and Caden Mealer last year. That was set up perfectly for them. They dropped a game in the regional, and that kind of put them behind the 8 ball a little bit because they had to come out of the first round instead of getting that bye to where you only have to win 2 to get to the state championship game. So that's what really kind of put them behind the 8 ball. They got a hot Warren team at the wrong time last year. They made a first-round exit. So they took the next step this year, getting to the quarterfinals. I think Mealer will be back. I'm pretty sure he'll be back next year. He's at 2026, if my mind remembers me right. Coach Lee, and I've gotten to be around Coach Lee quite a bit over the last few years and developed a really good relationship with him. And, of course, Evan Lee, his son, that's coaching for the Little Rock Trojans now. And being on the field and just talking baseball with those guys, it really doesn't get any better than that. And then you talk about what Alan Gum did with Shiloh this year. They had a 20-something game winning streak, won the conference. They won the regional. And in his first year, they're going to be back. They hit the ball really well this year. And, for Coach Gum, that didn't surprise me. He's got a really simple approach. He holds his guys accountable, and they go out there and play baseball. That's the biggest thing about what I talked to him about in transitioning from the college level down to the high school level, is that it was going to be a little bit different. But at the end of the day, you're still holding your kids accountable. And can they, self-police themselves and hold themselves accountable? So he took care of the coaching side, put the strategy in, and the guys executed. So I'm excited to see the future of 4A baseball. It's always one of my favorite conferences. I got to, when I was umpiring, I got to crew chief it 3 times. And I chose just to follow them all around the state. I went to Southside Batesville one time, went to South Arkansas one time, and went to Lone Oak one time just because of the great baseball in that conference. So really looking forward to this championship game. It should be one of the closer ones of the week. I think a lot of them will be close, but you got one with 2 different regions taking on each other, but they've been close in the past. Harding stepping up to 4A, Brooklyn trying to get their first state championship.
Then similar to, or pretty much exactly the same to Class 6A, we had 2 big-time lopsided finishes in the semifinal round of 3A, both shutouts. Genoa Central blanked Haskell Harmony Grove 18-0, and then Ashdown shut out Perryville 9-0. Kevin, I meant to save this graphic. I think Walter Woody posted it earlier. The amount of state championships that Ashdown has been to, basically in the last 50 years, it's insane. I remember when I was in 8th grade, CAC, we beat them in the state final in 2004. But I mean, they have been, of course, they lost last year, I guess it was, to Prairie Grove, but in the 4A. But this is, a program that's back again against a really good Genoa Central team that we've been talking about all year too.
Yeah, these 2 teams know each other, and we got 3 state championships that have conference matchups. You got 6A, 5A, and 3A, and you almost had it in 4A had Robinson beat Brooklyn. So, these 2 teams know each other. They played each other a couple times. They split this season. Let's see. Genoa beat Ashdown 6-5 in the finals of the district tournament. Ashdown won the regular season title at Ashdown 4-2. So the 1-run game and 2-run game. Genoa's good. Really, at the beginning of the season, we've had Ashdown 1, Genoa Central 2 all season. And I never moved them off that line because they were the most consistent and they were the most talented. So Will Spears hitting 333. Braxton Robertson makes Genoa Central go. He's going to be the one that can, 18 stolen bases on the year, hasn't been caught stealing. He's hitting over 400, 24 RBIs, leads the team in just about every category. He's got 30 runs on the year. He's pretty good on the mound, too. Nicholas Wells is another arm for them. He's 6-3 on the year, 72 strikeouts, 1.35 ERA. So Wells can throw. He's probably going to start the game, but Braxton Robertson, that 3-hole. 2 really good shortstops in this matchup. You got Robertson at third base, shortstop for Genoa Central, and then you got for Ashdown, you got Walt Jones, who's going to University of Arkansas. I really love this matchup, Kyle. I'm looking forward to it. I really wish I was kind of calling this one too. I'll be up at the game for sure.
I almost feel like this is going to be like a 3-1 game. And the reason I say that, something low scoring, because I didn't realize this when I was going through the brackets until now. Genoa Central outscored their opponents in the state tournament 38-1.
Yeah, no earned runs. That 1 run that whoever scored was unearned. Yeah.
Man, but then it's like these 2 teams know each other so well, so it's like going to be it's got to be a pitcher's duel. I mean, that's the only thing that would make sense here.
Yeah, that's the only way you think of it as is somebody goes out there and gets a bloop single, and wouldn't be surprised if it goes extra innings. We talk about Walt Jones; he's hitting 476 on the year. Both these teams are hitting over 300. I think Genoa's hitting 307. Ashdown's hitting 354 as a team. So you're going to have some good pitching, but you're going to have some really good offenses as well.
And down in Class 2A, the Riverside. So we'll have both Riverside baseball and softball in the 2A state final. They edged Murphysboro 3-2 in the semifinal round. And we actually had back-to-back 3A finishes, or 3-2 finishes there, with Cedar Ridge taking down McCrory 3-2. So these were very low-scoring games. This is going to be one of those 12-10 maybe.
So Riverside lost Zane McClure in the regional tournament. That was their dude, and he was the one that beat Valley View this year. And we had talked about how good they had been all season. And then they lost to Hazard County in the regional tournament. So what was going to happen after that? We didn't know. And they came out and we were like, all right, Woodlawn and Riverside in the second round. That's going to be for all the marbles. That's what's going to happen. And that ended up being an extra inning game. Riverside won that one 5-0. And they just haven't looked back. Brayson Timms hitting 316. Maddox Stone name goes a long way up at Riverside. Gavin Stone's his older brother. He's hitting 388 on the season. But when they lost McClure, you got to figure out how they were going to piece everything together, and they did. They went out and they just kept putting guys out there, and they just know how to pitch. The deepest pitching staff in Class 2A made it to the state championship game. Shocker, right? So they're going for their first state championship, and so is Cedar Ridge. Cedar Ridge is one that's made the semifinals 2 years ago, and then they went out in the quarters last year. Now they got the right draw this year. But they did it with Aiden Jones and Kyle Province. Those two guys have been on the field for Cedar Ridge the last 3 years, and that they've taken them where they need to be this year. So same region. We'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to it. When is this game? I hadn't even looked.
I think 2A is Friday. I think
Friday night.
I think so.
Yeah, Friday night. So yeah, looking forward to this game for sure.
I wanted to definitely touch back on Murphysboro because the Brody Maroon's a player that we talked about a lot. And, man, what a tear, especially that one. He was our only – both on the baseball and softball side, he was the only two-time winner of the team-funded player of the week. And, I mean, you're just like, well, I mean, how do you not give it to him with what he put up? I mean, that tear that he was on for a while, obviously a big part of why Murphysboro was able to do what it did. But, I mean, came up just short. I think – now, I can't remember that this one I didn't follow as heavily. Was Murphysboro leading – at one point, or was it just okay?
2-0 quick.
2-0. That's what I was thinking.
Yep, got up 2-0. Then Riverside came back, and at the end of the game, just they held on. Murphysboro just couldn't get it done. But they were coming in as a 4 seed, especially in 2A, for a 4 seed to go as far as they did. What was huge, and Murphysboro was one of those teams that they never really got towards the top 3 teams in our Super 7 rankings this year, but they were always the one that kept winning. They kept getting in there, especially when you're in a regional with Woodlawn and Parker's Chapel and some of the teams, not Desart, but Ouachita, those teams that have, been big names in Class 2A over the last, 6 or 7 years. So, yeah, great run by the Rattlers. Maroon ended with, I think, 12 home runs, 56, 57 RBIs. Great year by that young man. And a great year for the Rattlers.
And I think more so than anything that because again, I know Woodlawn was expected by many to possibly come back after losing to Ouachita last year and get another state title. But the fact that Riverside blanked them in the quarterfinals, I mean, that just makes it even more impressive.
Yeah, and that just goes back to the pitching depth that we talked about. So it surprised me because Woodlawn throwing shutouts was no big deal, but the fact that it just shows how deep that pitching staff is, and they just kept guys like Wells and Tate Hall in check for 8 innings is what really just kind of shocked me at the end of the day.
And last but not least in Class 1A, St. Joe over Hillcrest 3-2, and then the Taylor Tigers now going for their 4th consecutive state championship, while on the other side softball is going for its 8th. It's already got the record for 7 straight. Now the softball is going for 8. So another Taylor party, a lot of blue that we're going to see for both 1A games once again, just pretty much like they're home away from home at this point. So I had actually – I looked at the scores too quick. I was talking in our group text about how, I tend to get dyslexic and maybe not look at a score too hard. And I was thinking that this was reversed. I'm like, oh, Taylor got beat. Oh, that's crazy. And then I think in softball was actually either trailing or tied with Scranton at that time. So I'm like, okay, what's going to happen here? But then, of course, I rechecked it and I was very incorrect. But nonetheless, you got a Taylor team that's just, again, been a juggernaut against the St. Joe team that, has gotten hot, but they're shorthanded too, Kevin. I think they've got 11 or 12 players. So, this is just a really scrappy bunch that got to this point.
Yeah, and I've known Coach Davis at St. Joe from when I was calling ball. One of the first regional tournaments I did, and I'm dating myself a little bit, was 2013, I believe, and St. Joe's won it that year. And they were in a regional with Trinity Christian. It was at Bigelow, so you had Magazine. Bigelow wasn't in it that year, but they had some really good college athletes then, and they ran through the 1A state at that point. Now, Taylor's beaten St. Joe's each of the last 2 years in the semifinals. Last year, I think it was 10 or 11 to nothing. And we had talked about how good St. Joe's was. If the pitching lined up right, they had those top two guys that could go out there and possibly take down Taylor. Well, they didn't. Now they got the shot, man. So, they're playing with house money. That they've since that 2013 state championship game, they made a final in 2017. And they lost that year. I can't remember to who, but Andrew Beck was the 2013 state MVP that year. He's an assistant coach on the St. Joe's team. So good to see, Andrew giving back the Beck family. They've sent a few guys through St. Joe's. But, yeah, Kyle, they have 8 underclassmen, 8 9th or 10th graders going against St. Joe. So these two teams know each other, and it's not because they play each other all the time. It's because they faced each other the last 2 years in the state tournament. Now they get to face them in the state finals. So Taylor has a couple of names that you're going to recognize from the past couple of years. Jesse Humphreys starting at first base. He's hitting cleanup for him. Tucker Smith, Wade Barton, and Jacob Vandenberg. Cannon Fowler starting at second base, Coach Fowler's son. So good. We remember Cannon running around as a bat boy out there when they first started making this run. So he's getting a start for his dad now. There's 23-3 overall, 10-0 in conference. Of course, 1 regionals. St. Joe's 24-4. So you got 2 really good teams going at it in the 1A final.
I know one thing that a lot of people fall, including myself, everybody's done it, but you tend to look at scores a lot of times. It's like, okay, well, how's this going to go? And you think about the 8-6 finish with Westside and Taylor, and then 8-7 finish with Midland. Do you think this is more just of, hey, it's the state tournament, anything can happen, win or go home competitive type, or, maybe is there a little bit more to it than that?
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. Westside was really good this year. They were number 2, number 3. They dropped a game to Viola back early in the season, in which we moved Viola up. Viola didn't even make the state tournament. They got bounced in the first round by Concord or somebody, I forget, maybe Scranton, Mark Tree, maybe. that region was so tough. Armorel and Viola didn't even make it. So Westside, the hip Brooks Hip had a great year for them, and they had the offense. And that, remember, Kyle, that was the 1A state championship game last year. And Midland's always been one of those teams that's going to win their conference and then maybe get a 3 or 4 seed because their region is tough. And they, did better this year, advancing in state tournaments. So Taylor, I think talent-wise, I think maybe Coach Fowler would agree this is maybe 4 of 4, but they still got there and they know how to win. That's the difference between these two teams is you got a team with more upperclassmen in Taylor that, look, they know how to get to UCA in state championship game and win it versus St. Joe, who hasn't been to a state title game since 2017.
Well, there you have it. You can catch all these games on Arkansas PBS, as we said at the top there. Kevin will be so it is, just to confirm again, it's 4, 5, and 6A that you're on.
No, I'm on 1. I'm doing 1A, 4A, and 6A.
Oh, so you got a little bit of a. See, I'm 4, 5, and 6, so I got the bigger classes. So you got a little bit of a mix. That's cool. Yeah. Hey, you might get to call Taylor winning their 4 straight, so that'll be really cool.
So, I got Thursday at 1 o'clock, Friday at 4, and then prime time Saturday night at 7 o'clock.
There you go. Yeah, well, definitely, obviously you can catch these on TV, but, if you get an opportunity, come out and see these kids. It's a really great weekend. You can catch 3 different sports. I've even covered some of the soccer games before, and I'm admittedly not other than the World Cup, not a huge soccer fan, but there's 3 different sports, and the best of the best competing against each other. So if you get an opportunity, definitely head out to UCA and support these kids, trying to win state championships. So, well, Kevin, we'll wrap things up next week. We'll recap all the state championships and kind of just wrap everything up here before we finish out the 2025 season. But man, year 4, I know this is going to be the last one for us you and I are going to be friendly competitors. I guess we already are friendly competitors, but officially, but man, no, it's been a heck of a ride. I think about it, and we've now, of course, in softball, it is a little bit more prevalent to see a hefty amount of freshmen playing. But I think about, from their freshman year to these seniors, it's kind of crazy how fast it all has gone by.
Yeah, we watched these guys grow up. And I remember, when we first started this, we were talking about class of 2022, which was that was fun. That's the Gage Wood group and those guys that were really good. And they're seniors at that point. And now we're talking about guys that are in 2028. You had a freshman start for Greene County Tech on the mound. Ty Tanksley's
Robinson.
For Brooks Robinson from Greene County Tech. Ty Tanksley's a freshman. He's a 2028. So, we're spending, we've been doing this 4 years, but we're spending 6 years because those guys were so young at that point. Now we're getting these freshmen that are rolling in. So, yeah, it's been a fun ride. I've really enjoyed it with you working on the high school side of things. And we'll I know that we'll have our ear to the ground and still be covering high school and sports like it has been. We just won't have this show, unfortunately.
Right. And that's one thing I've kind of said on the softball side too. I've even, I help out extra innings softball a little bit with our region, like Arkansas and Louisiana and Texas. And that's kind of what I've told people is I'm not completely getting out of it. I just, doing because you know how it is covering baseball, especially on a weekend. 3 games, it's a lot. And we love what we do. We're not complaining, but that plus a podcast plus, it's just honestly not feasible, frankly. It's a lot of extra time. And so, but we will both still be pretty heavily involved, or not heavily, but, still involved in the games and all that good stuff. So, well, again, thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll have the recaps of all the 6 of the state finals next week. But other than that, for Kevin Bohannon and all of us here, I'm Kyle Sutherland. We will catch you next week.